I'm a visual filmmaker as opposed to a literary filmmaker, so the movie rests in the visuals, and it's very hard to predict exactly how that's going to play until you've actually cut it together. The way I plan a movie is I shoot 95% of it in the original shoot, and then I save a couple of weeks in the spring of the next year, and then I save another week for the fall of the next year. I like to work that way. It gives me a chance to reassess the story and how it's all working. This hallway is similar to one in episode 1 where the destroyer droids come and shoot Obi-Wan and his master, Qui-Gon Jinn. So I wanted to have it be reminiscent of that. This is a quiet pause in the movie, which allows the drama to build again, and once the fighting starts, we bring the music back. And after seeing it sort of relentlessly action, 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 I felt that these little quiet breaks was a much-needed relief. It was set up as a test for Anakin, because if he could kill Dooku, then he would make the perfect apprentice for Palpatine, who'd been sort of training him and setting him up and befriending him over the years. With General Grievous, I wanted somebody who was reminiscent of what Anakin is going to become. It didn't have the same kind of wheezy voice that Vader had, but had a kind of a reminiscent quality about it. He coughs through the whole thing, actually, until he dies. That's just part of his character. We set this up this time so you could see the relationship between the executive office building and the Senate building, because in the other films, we never really had a good establishing shot that put those two places in proximity to each other. There was a lot of perspective strangeness that was going on. If you tried to do a floor plan of this, it wouldn't work. That's the way they did it originally. But we just kept moving columns around until it looked right, even though there's no logic to it at all. Another one of these pauses that I've added into the film every once in a while to keep it from moving too fast makes it a little hard sometimes for the audience to catch up if things are moving along too fast, and they move pretty fast in this movie as it is. So it actually is the scene where she ends up dying, was shot at the same time as that. Without this scene, it began to appear that Anakin was simply angry that he had been overlooked, or he wasn't moving fast enough up the ladder like it was in the last film. As a petulant teenager, he was always a little ambitious and a little impatient with what was going on, and a little angry. In this one, it's not about that. It's about his fear of losing his wife, even though he does get slighted, and it's more along the lines of the fact that the Jedi Council doesn't completely trust him, even though Obi-Wan does. The rest of the Council is still a little dubious of his behavior. There was a front part of this scene where it's a little bit more explicit that Palpatine is taking direct control over the Council and making Anakin his representative. It's now implied, but it's never stated that clearly. There I am with my daughter. This way we're to have it in a more interesting environment, and I think it makes this scene work quite a bit better. This is the first time we got to go to the Wookiee planet. It started out as the two leading ships were a couple of helicopters, and I decided to turn them into giant dragonflies, because it used to be that Yoda was able to fly around on a dragonfly, but that went away. But I wanted to give this sense of technology, but still in a very organic setting. So this allows us to go into that world that we've always heard about but never really seen. This battle with the Wookiees went on a bit long, and over a period of time tried to find the right amount of battle that we need to see in order to move the story forward, but not make it repetitious and boring, which is very easy to do in battle scenes. But I wanted to keep it, very sharp and give the Wookiees a chance to fight. But, the real story is not about the battle, it's about Anakin and his struggle, so you can't spend too much time on issues that aren't related to the main story. This was a scene with a lot of clones, so we had to shoot the same actor over and over again. It's sort of undersea, fossil, skeletal. Came up with a look for it that is consistent to a culture. When Steve Spielberg was bored, I let him storyboard some of these sequences, and he storyboarded a whole sequence and quite a bit more to this battle. It was meant to be about this long, but he made it about 4 times longer. This little part of this scene, interestingly enough, was shot a little bit later. We didn't have the set, so it was all shot on blue stairs, and the background was really stills that we had of this set that were mosaiced together to build an actual digital set. So in a way, this is a complete digital set that was formulated out of digital still photographs of the real set, and then shot about a year later. Worked out amazingly well. This sequence here actually started in this room, and there was just so much in this room And a lot of it had to do with them spinning around each other, that we decided to take part of it and put it at the head and move it into that other room, which gives it a better forward progression and moves from one set to another and makes it a little bit more interesting to watch. This is one of those sequences that I wish I had been able to include more of it. The story sort of demands that we don't do more of it, but we had a lot of fun designing various pieces of this that ultimately couldn't be shot. There's a lot in a script when you write a script that you have to keep monitoring and cutting things down to focus on where the story is. It's very easy to get sidetracked.
You'll see in that shot, George asked us to put in that little beating heart just to give us another reminder that Grievous is part creature.
And I also wanted to establish that Grievous was a life form for those that didn't quite get it in the close-ups. And this, by opening up his chest, it makes him more vulnerable when he's got the gun, so because whatever was protecting him is now gone. In the original script, Anakin stayed at the Emperor's office. He didn't come back, so he was always there, which didn't work dramatically that well. And in rehearsals and laying things out, it became apparent that wasn't working very well.